Hello Nash, I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and chat with you.
Flutter is known for its community, and so everyone who is into Flutter will absolutely know who is Nash. But for our new audience, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I've been doing Flutter for quite some time now. So a little bit about me. I got into Flutter back in 2017, switching from another cross-platform framework. And since then, I've written quite a bit of Flutter code, wrote a couple apps, built a plugin for VS Code, contributed to the framework, and also started the Flutter Community Medium, which has been going strong since 2018.
So I would like to start with the question like what got you started into the world of programming? Like when you wrote your very first Hello World?
Yeah, so I got into programming as an accident. Um, I definitely did not see myself going down this path. It kind of just happened by accident. So basically, the very first time I encountered code was basically HTML way back in my first year of like high school, I think it was, where I accidentally downloaded a Chrome file or a web page and opened that in a notepad, and that basically got me curious to start googling like what is this, and speaking to a couple um, teachers and whatnot about HTML and how it's used. So I basically started in web and kind of followed that web path all the way up to 2016, 17, where I started like dabbling a bit more into mobile, did some React Native for some time, and then moved into Flutter after coming across, like I think it was Emily's Flutter talk at Google I/O in 2017, the meme chat, which was a lot of fun. So yeah, that's basically how I got in, some things that I've been doing, and how it started with Flutter for me.
Okay, it was great to know. And now you're totally into Flutter till date. So what got you started with Flutter?
I've been doing Flutter since 2017. It's been a lot of fun since, but for me, like what got me started, I think, was some pain points that I've had with other frameworks that I didn't have with Flutter. I think like the documentation was also a bit better. The onboarding was a bit better, and for me, that was like a huge time saver. Also, the productivity was also really really great. Like coming in for the first time, trying hot reload, um, that kind of thing, which was really really fun. And I think as some of those core features have evolved quite a lot since 2017, but they're still like really really core to the Flutter experience, and I really enjoy using them.
Okay. So I would also like to ask you like currently what you are working on.
So currently, I lead the mobile DevRel team um, at Stream, and Stream, for those of you who don't know, is we're basically a SaaS company for building chat and activity feeds. So if you want to add chat to your Flutter application, for example, we make it super easy for you to do that. So I started as a Flutter developer advocate working on the Flutter SDK and kind of building up our Flutter offerings, and now I work with all of our mobile teams to kind of do the same. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun. A lot of really cool, interesting challenges. Specifically with Flutter, we started like using uh, community packages such as Melos to kind of consolidate our code bases and improve our workflow and all of that. So it's been a lot of fun just building that out, working with the community, collaborating with a bunch of really smart people to solve those problems.
Okay, great. So you mentioned Stream. So what is Getstream.io and how it is useful for developers?
Yeah, so we make it like super easy for you to add chat and activity feeds to your application. So for example, if you're trying to build something like Instagram, where you have like a lot of user engagement and you have a lot of interaction going on, we make it really easy for developers to kind of add a timeline like experience into their application, and we take care of like the engagement, the interactions, that kind of thing. We also make it super easy if you want to add chat and you want to scale your chat um, to your apps or your websites or whatever. Um, we take care of the infrastructure behind that. We provide SDKs for you so you can do that, but without having to worry, about the underlying system, about scaling that, about some of the other challenges you would have with building in-house. It really allows you to add those experiences and move very quickly with them.
And you're also a developer advocate at Getstream. So what's your role as DevRel at the stream?
Yeah, so I lead the mobile team. So my role has evolved quite a lot over the last couple of months. But basically, it's working with our engineering team, working with our fellow DevRels, working with product, working with everyone, including the community. The community is such a big part of it as well, to basically consolidate feedback and to basically improve our SDK. So it can be something as simple as improving the documentation, the way our documentation is structured, all the way to if we need to re-architect part of our SDK, or we need to tweak something to kind of improve that developer experience, improve that offering. So yeah, I'm involved in pretty much the entire process there. And that's basically what it is. That's basically what it's like for all of our DevRels. We all work together closely at the end of the day, we want to build something that's useful to developers and something that people enjoy using. We have a lot of fun doing that, and obviously the traditional part of DevRel, which is speaking at conferences, writing blog posts and all of that. So it's basically like a two-sided job. There's a side that everyone sees where you're out, on Twitter, on conferences and whatever, and then there's the internal part of the job where you're being a champion for projects and features internally to the team. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. No 2 days are the same, and I'm really enjoying it.
And I really believe that we have just exposed people to different roles that exist in the tech world.
I was just going to say, being a DevRel is one of the coolest jobs, I think, in the tech world, because you get to do a bit of everything. It's not just like coding. You also get to do a bit of PM, a bit of, marketing and so much other things, like all mixed up into this one job. So it's a lot of fun. Really, really enjoying it.
Yeah, that's the best part. So now here is something cool which would be very interesting to ask and would add to our objective of giving people exposure to different opportunities that exist out there. So as you have worked with clients ranging with governments to startups, so how do you approach clients and how do you look out for opportunities?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. I just love building like cool projects. I love building like cool projects, like cool Flutter demos and whatever, posting that to my GitHub, posting that to Twitter. And yeah, usually like people reach out and they're like, hey, you want to build this really cool app that we're working on? And yeah, I tend to reach out that way. Government was kind of interesting because it's sort of like one thing that led to another in a series of circumstances. So for context, I got into government via a hackathon that they had. And yeah, our team basically won the hackathon. The hackathon was basically to build a government solution, or it basically was like a tender. It's you build a solution, the best solution wins. And it just so happens that we won. And instead of like sending us to an external company, they brought us on as a special project group to basically continue building that project and eventually take it to production. And at the time we didn't know it, but that timing just happened to line up with COVID. So COVID hit, and we were the new special project group in the company. So that scope of works there, went from a single project to, I think we shipped about 3 different projects with a couple others that are not public yet. So
okay, thank you so much. It was very helpful to know.
Yeah.
And now let's come to plugins. So there is an awesome VS Code plugin made by you, and its name too is Awesome Flutter Snippets and has more than 600k installs. So I would really like to know, what was your idea and inspiration behind creating Awesome Flutter Snippets, and what problem does it solve?
Oh, this is an interesting one. So it goes all the way back to when I first got started with Flutter. And there was this debate back in the day where some of us were using VS Code and some of us were using IntelliJ. And my good friend Simon, he's a passionate IntelliJ user. And as part of the IDE tooling, you can look at override methods. You can look at, you can do a bunch of different cool things that you can't do in VS Code, or at least you couldn't do at the time. And one of those things was being able to quickly override methods like did change dependencies or in state or something like that. That really sped up his workflow. It really helped him move faster. Um, so me being a VS Code user, I had to type that out manually, and it made for some like good fun between us. Until eventually, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna document all of these snippets into a plugin for VS Code that people could just start typing and autocomplete. And that basically was how Awesome Flutter Snippets came about. So it was the initial version had the override methods for the state class, so like reassemble, in a state dispose, your typical suspects. And then as the project grew, people started contributing, and we started adding templates for stateful, stateless widgets, controllers, builders, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. The project has basically been on autopilot. I think like it's at the point where we have most of the widgets that we want in there. So yeah, it's really cool, and it's really awesome to see that growth. I'm hoping maybe by end of year it could get to 1 million. That'd be like really, really awesome. But it's one of those like fun little side projects you start. You don't really know how it's gonna go. You don't really start it with the intention of having it like long term, and then you're pleasantly surprised when it gains popularity. So I think like I feel like that there's an interesting lesson there. On tech Twitter, I often see people that are like, oh, I don't know what project to build. I think like that's probably like the best use case for just build something, put it out there, and see what happens. Because when that project was basically started as like a lighthearted joke between two friends, and now it's used by a bunch of developers to write their code every day. So just build something, find something you like, build it, put it out there, and see what happens. So yeah, I think that's the main takeaway there.
And also here's a question that has been said by my audience, like how does Neevash become Nash?
Okay, so that's also an interesting story. I started writing and I didn't want to use my full name online, so I basically like made it short to Nash, and it stuck. And yeah, I mean, like all of my friends call me Nash, even in like in my day to day and whatever. So yeah, it basically stuck, which is like really cool. So
Okay. Okay, so you are also a lead editor of the Flutter community. So how it all started and what all you manage?
yeah, so Flutter Community has been one interesting, unique experience, I think. So Flutter Community started in June of 2018. I remember it really like clearly because Simon and I, we were on Zoom. It was like 9 p.m. and at that time the number of people writing Flutter content, you could have probably counted them on one hand. But we were slowly over the months, especially after the first, I think it was like beta or something that was released in February, you slowly started to see more content for Flutter coming out. And we really wanted to create something that basically a new user can go to and they can very easily get up and running. With Flutter, they can find resources, they can find help guides, that kind of thing. So Flutter Community is actually made up of two parts. I think the one everyone is familiar with is the Medium, but we also have a GitHub that's run by my good friend Jay, who's the admin there. And on the Medium side, we basically want to create a publication that's a collection of all articles, all content, that kind of thing, and provide a place where authors can publish their content and users can kind of come and find really good content to get them up and going with Flutter very quickly. And on the GitHub side, we basically wanted to have a safe place for package maintainers. If a package is really popular and a package maintainer, doesn't want to maintain the package moving forward, they can submit it to Flutter Community, and the community can kind of help with that. And I think like a project that kind of benefited from that was Plus Plugins. I think Majid, I know he's leading that effort. So yeah, it's been really interesting. It's really cool to see the community grow. I remember creating that very first like Medium publication on that Saturday night, having no idea you know what's gonna happen with it. I think like the last time I looked, I think we had around like 50,000 followers on Medium and coming up on 30,000 on Twitter. But Flutter community has grown so much since then. Obviously, we've done community hackathons, so Hack 19, Hack 20. We've participated in a bunch of different events. So helping and supporting the Flutterista event most recently, and yeah, just being there and being present for the community and just like providing good resources and guidance to developers getting started with Flutter.
So how people watching to this show too can hope to get their articles published in the Flutter community too?
Yeah, so we recently we closed submissions because of the volume that we were getting, the number of submissions that we were getting, but we're slowly opening that back up as we're able to manage and review those submissions. I think like what people like don't realize it, it's basically like Simon, myself, and Scott reviewing those submissions. So it tends to take like some time for submissions to be properly reviewed and whatever. But yeah, if you're interested, like follow me on Twitter and send me a DM with your Twitter with your Medium link, or you can email us at on the Flutter community email. But when you are submitting content, please make sure that you review it ahead of time, or use a tool like Grammarly, for example, to kind of help reduce that time it takes to review. Because if not, then it's going to take a bunch of time for either myself or someone else on the team to review that, edit, and get it into a place that we want to publish. So yeah, reach out to us on Twitter. You can DM us, or you could send an email to us on the Flutter community email, and we'll be happy to assist.
Okay, that would be great, and it would be very helpful for the people watching or listening to this show too. So you're also a co-host of Hump Day Q&A. So what's the idea behind Hump Day Q&A?
Yeah, I think like co-host is a bit of a stretch since I haven't been on in a very long time at this point. But the original idea between Hump Day Q&A was basically like an open office hours for Flutter. It started way back, again, that 2018 time period. And we basically had like Googlers that were used to drop in, and members of the community could come in, ask questions, get help, that kind of thing. So that's how it started. And as the community grew, it basically turned into a live stream that developers can kind of tune in, and they can get answers, they can post questions, and we'll try to help out where we can. So I think Scott and Ramdial, and there's a varying number of people now who join in on Hump Day Q&A regularly. Simon as well. So one of the cool things about Hump Day Q&A, it also allows us, or it allows people to kind of tune in and see how, or learn different things about the framework. So for example, Simon does a lot of live coding around dribble examples, or implementing some type of use case in Flutter. So it's a really cool way for people to kind of come in and kind of backseat code with someone on the team.
Okay. So I have also seen you have attended so many hackathons. So could you explain what are hackathons and what are its significance in the development field?
Yeah, no, hackathons are a really great place to just like learn and build and solve problems with a lot of people, and have a lot of fun with it. So we did 2 hackathons for Flutter Community. We did one back in 2019, we did one in 2020. And it was basically a place where developers can build a solution, showcase their solutions, and win a prize, which was a lot of fun because it was really cool to see what developers from around the world were building, which was really, really awesome. In the case of the 2019 one, it was actually in person, like pre-COVID. And it was really cool to have a live stream of like a bunch of developers around the world, like everyone from the US to Australia, just getting together and building cool projects with Flutter. So yeah, that was really, really cool.
Yeah, hackathons are pretty famous in developers.
Yeah, they are. Like they are such a good way to learn new things, and it's a really interesting challenge as well. To to build those things, and it's a really creative like way to just like express yourself and build really cool projects. And you gain a lot of experience as well from it because in most cases you don't know ahead of time what you're going to be building, so you're building on the fly, which is really cool.
And so, according to you, what are perks of attending hackathons?
Yeah, no, some of the perks are, I think it depends on the hackathon that you attend, because each one would have like different prizes, different perks or whatever. But I think like the main one is networking, experience, and just getting to build like really cool things. But I think like the networking one and the experience is really cool because you get to meet and interact with developers from lots of different places. So it's a really cool way to kind of keep your technical skills sharp while also meeting new developers, new collaborators, um, and that kind of thing.
Okay. And you and your team has also won the first place at National Hackathons. So, what's the inside story and journey of winning the hackathon?
Oh, that was a fun one. Yeah, no, that was an interesting. So we actually won using a Flutter app. Funny enough. Um, but yeah, I think I spoke about it earlier. But basically, our national ICT company, they had like a tender slash hackathon for a government solution that they wanted to build and implement. Um, a couple of friends and I, we all took part, and it was really interesting. I remember like I remember showing up to the first like pitch meeting with like a super polished app, like really good documentation, that sort of thing, and no slides. Don't ever do this if you're going to a pitch meeting, by the way. Basically, no slides. And we presented the solution. Everyone really, really loved it. I don't think anyone minded that we didn't have any slides because like the solution was really good. The demos were solid. Um, and like from a developer standpoint, we had like excellent documentation. We even used the Dartdoc tool to document and generate like a website that people can go to internally and look up different parts of the package and whatever. So I don't think anyone would really mind, but I remember like leaving that first session, that first feedback session, and someone was like, "Hey, for the next one, you should bring some slides." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I completely forgot about the slides." But it was an interesting experience to go from that to the final presentation where we had like really good slides. Um, we had like a polished solution, and yeah, um, our solution, our architecture won. Then we all like, we basically, I mean, we basically joined the company and implemented that, and it's used in production today. So yeah, it's a really fun one. And then like the experience from that as well, like working with people at different levels in government as well, was really cool. Like some of the things you have to think about, especially when building projects like that, you don't normally think about as a developer, especially like around security, accessibility, some of those types of things, documentation. Like the types of documentation that you need to do is extremely different than what you would usually do as a developer building those projects. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, like excellent learning experience. And then for me, like being able to in a way like lead the team, basically be that tech lead for the team, was just a lot of fun. And I think nothing really like I can't really put words to building a project and then seeing it like used out um, by the public to do certain things. So yeah, it's really good. Like the experience you get from a project like that is invaluable.
That was really an interesting one.
Yeah, yeah. It was a fun couple of years in government and working on those projects. I was also super young at the time, so it made it like even more interesting from my perspective.
And also recently, means in April, you have also become officially a Google Developer Expert for Flutter and Dart. So could you share your story on becoming a Google Developer Expert for Flutter and Dart?
Yeah, it definitely took some time, I think. But yeah, I think like it happened back in April. I think it became official. Um, but yeah, I think it's just if there's any like takeaways from that, it's just like be consistent. The goal should I don't think like from being a GDE, the goal should never be like to be a GDE. It should be produce good content, help people, really contribute to the community, and the GDE like status will come eventually. I think like that's been my experience, and I know a couple other GDUs who have very similar experiences. So don't get discouraged or anything like that. At the end of the day, you should do whatever you like to do and whatever you enjoy doing. Um, there's no point to having a GDE if you don't enjoy, producing content and that sort of thing, because that's basically what a GDE does. So my advice around like becoming a GDE and getting to that point is produce good content, stay consistent with it, enjoy what you do, have fun with what you do, and it will eventually come.
Okay, that was a great advice. And I've also noticed something like on your Twitter and Instagram, your username is Nash0x72. So, was it intended?
Yeah, this is a fun one. I know I'm saying like it's a fun one multiple times, but this is actually a fun one. Um, Scott, um, from Flutter Community, his Twitter handle is Scott2017, I think. Scott Stoll 2017. Um, and at the time, I was picking a new Twitter handle, and I didn't know what to choose. So I looked at Scott and I was like, Scott, you've got like 2017 in your Twitter handle. Like, what's up with that? And he's like, oh, it's when I created my Twitter account. I was like, okay. So I wanted to do something that was kind of unique, in that way. And it's just turned into this thing that I want to change it. I have no idea what to change it to. And like changing it is going to be like a massive like update cycle I'm going to have to go through. But basically, the 0x72 part of it is basically 2018 in hexadecimal, because that's when I updated my Twitter handles. I didn't want to like have it in like 2018 in regular. I wanted to have it like kind of unique, kind of cool. It seemed cool at the time. So I basically converted 2018 to hexadecimal and appended that to Nash. But yeah, I'm kind of curious if anyone listening has any suggestions for a new Twitter handle, like tweet me. I'm really curious.
That was really an interesting reason.
Yeah, it's the most boring reason that kind of turned out to be something kind of cool.
So now we have came to the last part of the talk, and let's put in here some of the more Flutter questions. So could you name one widget or package that you found very useful, and if you have more than one into your toolbox, then you can share that too.
Okay, Qubits, or Block by Felix, because I use that quite a lot when building apps. Shameless self-promotion, Stream Chats, because I helped build it, and we spent like a lot of time on that, so that's near and dear to my heart. And yeah, there's a bunch. Rody Davis has some amazing packages on Pop. Too many to name. But yeah, there's quite a bit. And in terms of widgets, oh boy, I recently named every widget in Flutter on Twitter, which was interesting.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
let's see.
saw
Let's
that.
pick one. Um, um, I like the implicitly animated widget class. I could pick one of its subclasses, but I like that class because um, it allows you to add animations to your widgets without having to deal with like an animation controller and all of that. It's really cool because you can build a custom widget and then make it implicitly animated. Um, so that's really interesting. So yeah, I think implicitly animated widgets would be my favorites, and then animated whatever, like container, align, whatever, would be my second group of favorite widgets. Oh, and actually thinking about Alphabet the composite transform follower and composite transform targets, they allow you to position widgets relative to each other, connected by a link, which is really cool because it eliminates the need for having to go and find a render object and work out some math. So yeah, I think those three are my favorites.
Okay. And what is the best state management solution you have found?
Oh, that's a loaded question. The best state management solution depends entirely on the type of application you are building. I think that's the best advice I can give around state management. So actually, you know what? I think scope model would probably be one of my favorites from back in the day, but no. What you choose for your state management depends entirely on what you're building. So if you're building a small application with relatively simple like flows and whatever, then you can probably use default built-in classes and functions. So there are some applications that I build where I've not even used a third-party package. I just use like an inherited widget plus some value class, value modifier, value symbol pointers, that kind of thing. For more complex applications, I tend to lean towards qubits. I just like how simple it is. I like how well documented it is. So yeah. But again, it depends on your app. I think the most important thing, especially for developers who are new to this space, is just start building something. You will know when you need to start using a state management. If you find yourself starting to call updates in really weird places, and you've got you're passing state around in some complex way, then that's a sign that you should extract things a bit and kind of refactor your application. But you don't want to do that prematurely. If you do that prematurely, then you're making your life more difficult. So just build your application, build out your functionality, and as you're going along, you can start refactoring and changing, extracting things to basically fit your needs. I remember one time, Simon and I, we built an entire app in a single file, like an entire multi-page app in a single file using no dependencies or anything like that. So you can get really far with what's provided to you. Even a stateful widget. I know it's frowned upon to use large stateful widgets, but you can use them to your advantage if you encapsulate and you extract your widgets into smaller bits. You can use that to your advantage. So not everything has to be driven by a state management solution. So.
Okay, and your advice to people who are into Flutter in terms of learning and pursuing it as a career?
Yeah, so build projects on GitHub. I think that's the main thing, especially in tech, especially in the developer ecosystem in 2021. You should absolutely have projects on GitHub. You should, when you put projects on your GitHub, make sure you document them as well. You want to have a really good README installation guides, that kind of thing, for people to try out and run your project. But my best advice is just get started, build something, iterate on it, improve on it, and that's how you learn. I think, especially for me, I'm a person I learned by doing. So, when I was learning Flutter, I built a bunch of projects early on, a lot of small projects that are insignificant, but they all add up to something in the end. So even if you think your project is insignificant, chances are it's not, because you're going to learn something from that project that's going to add up to something bigger in the end that can help you build what you eventually want to build. So get started, learn by doing. I think that's the biggest thing. And projects that you're really proud of, put them on your GitHub, get a good README on there. If you're on Twitter, you can tweet them, and that kind of helps out a bit as well. And if you're on Twitter and you need a code review or something, just tweet that, and I'm sure there's someone in the community who might be in a similar position to you, who's probably learning as well, who might be interested in taking a look at your project. And you might find a contributor there as well, or someone to kind of help you along this process. But if you're someone who looks for a lot of written material, then I'd say Flutter Community, flutter.dev, there are excellent resources out there to kind of help you get started on building your first Flutter application.
Okay, thank you so much, Nash, for sharing some of the great advices with us. And this was an amazing conversation full of learning. And I really want to thank you for coming and enriching the show with your valuable experience and knowledge.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much everyone for sticking with us till the end. I tried to cover every important topic that could be valuable and serve as an asset for you. So if you find this video helpful, then make sure to share it with all your tagged friends. And do hit that like button, it really motivates me to make much more quality content for you. And if you have any doubts, suggestions or feedback, then make sure to put it in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed till now, then make sure to hit the subscribe button, because I'm going to come up with amazing content on this channel. And also another amazing episode is coming on the next Monday, so stay tuned. So now I will see you in the next episode. Till then, keep learning, keep growing. Thank you.